Welcome to the AI Chat podcast. I'm your host, Jaden Schaefer. Today on the podcast, we have the pleasure of being joined with Alexander de Ritter, who is a visionary technologist at the forefront of the AI landscape. As the co-founder and CTO of Smith, he's pioneering SmythOS, which is the world's premier operating system aimed at orchestrating specialized AI agents. He's got a really rich background spanning across over 15 years in computer science, entrepreneurship, and marketing. And Alexander champions practical AI solutions that amplify human potential and advocates for its transformative impact on society. Super excited. Welcome to the show today, Alexander.
Thank you for having me.
Like I mentioned, super excited to have you on and hear a little bit about your background. I'm wondering, could you tell us a little bit about kind of what got you into this space? Did you always know you were kind of interested in AI and entrepreneurship and marketing on this whole sphere? Or tell us a little bit about your journey there.
Yeah, I'm a person who has very strong opinions and I'm a person with very strong opinions about the market, and ever since I was in university in the late 1990s and early 2000s, I knew the web was going to change everything. So when everyone was obsessed with coding for computers, I was coding for the web. And when I got my first job in a marketing company, and everyone was, excited about Flash, I was excited about JavaScript and WebSockets and how the web was going to change. And in the same way, when machine learning opportunities came around, I started seeing as 2012 rolled in, I started seeing how neural networks were going to change that field, and then how it was going to impact internet marketing and so forth. So where we are today is on the edge of a brand new chapter in the web. And so what got me into this field is like strong convictions about where the world is heading, where technology is heading, where customer experiences and interconnectedness is heading. And that often spans technology and people and human psychology. Marketing is kind of the art of elevating human psychology insights to the masses, and the medium is technology, right, to do that. So we're on this verge of a new web, and we have a new technology to power it. And I strongly believe that this next chapter in the web is going to be dominated by AI assistants.
Okay, such a fascinating concept. This is actually something I've been talking a lot about lately on LinkedIn and Twitter and stuff. So I'm like really curious to get your perspective on it. But maybe to kick this off, this kind of brings us to today. You have this phenomenal background, but today you're currently working on SmythOS. Would you be able to tell everyone a little bit about what this is, what the vision of SmythOS is, how you kind of got started on this? Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? I record and publish podcasts on a platform called Spotify for Podcasters, and I absolutely love it. Essentially, you can upload from your phone or computer, and it distributes to every platform that plays podcasts. They support video podcasts, and you can make money on the platform with ads or even podcast subscriptions, something that has made my life so much easier as a podcaster. So if you're interested, I highly recommend you give it a try. You can download the Spotify for Podcast app, or go to spotify.com/podcasters to get started on your podcast today.
Right. Okay. So right before this, I was working on inkforall.com, which is combining semantic insights. We started this pioneering AI research with sparse semantic embeddings for an analysis of your competitors, so that you can be 5 times more likely to rank first page in Google. We started that research in 2015, early 2016, built an agency around it, sold that agency very successfully in November 2021 to Compass UOL, and we spun out our AI technology. We had a lot of enterprise experience and tried to figure out how to bring this to market. And we figured at that time, hey, we can combine it with generative AI We have the portion that scores content and makes recommendations. But this Gen AI stuff is coming up, and people are hyping about it. So if we married it to, we create an editor for people to help them create content. Then ChatGPT came around, and kind of the whole industry had a whiplash. Companies that were previously valued really high all of a sudden were in trouble because ChatGPT took that. Every company in the world announced they were now a generative company, so the noise in the market got dialed up to I think NFT blockchain levels pre AI. And more interestingly, in March of this year, when GPT-4 came out, we noticed that it could use tools and APIs. The AI could know when it needed help. And so, being an internet person, very much in tune with where the internet is evolving, figured out, hey, the web is going to change, because when AI assistants, whether it is Google or Amazon or Apple or whatever it is, know how to use a website like a human does, why would I bother clicking through 15 pages to find an answer I'm looking for? It just doesn't make sense anymore. We then saw changes in generative search and so forth coming around. So I quickly got of the conviction that websites and brands would have to transform into bread agents and serve up their experience through APIs, because website browsing is just not efficient for AI agents. And if you want to know if a table just freed up at your restaurant, you don't want to real-time crawl your website to do that. You want to use an API. Mm-hmm. And then when OpenAI launched their plugin store, we were among the first 40 plugins to be approved in the store. SEO.app is one of our creations. We launched several plugins as an experiment, just launched, tested, saw the traction, saw user engagement, discontinued, tried another one. We did several plugins like that. And quickly started understanding that this was going to be something much bigger than even OpenAI understands. In my view, they botched the launch severely.
Of the plugins?
Yeah, they botched that launch.
I agree.
Now, sometimes an idea can be so good that even a bad execution cannot stop its success. And it will. I believe this approach, this technology, this idea will prevail. Right. So I liken this to humans. If you strip a human from all its entire support network and you drop us in a jungle, can't do much. But when you support us with technology and tool usage and so forth, we can do amazing things. We can put people on the moon. And it doesn't take much. I mean, invention of fire, the wheel, all of a sudden you have civilization, the printing press, all of a sudden you're a multi-planetary civilization, as Elon would put it, right? So the ability of artificial intelligence to know when it needs help and reach out for help to others or tools or APIs or plugins, whatever it is what makes the web executable. So we're right where we were 20 years ago when Web 2 came around. Mm-hmm. And when Web 1 was there, we had static web pages. We didn't have e-commerce. We didn't have social websites. We didn't have anything that we consider normal today. Didn't exist. Mm-hmm. I think 5-10 years from now, people are going to look at today and how we use the internet. They're going to be like, man, that was Stone Age. It's hard to even conceive how backward and slow and inefficient it is to just browse pages to try and glean information.
Oh, yeah, 100%. There's going to be so much innovation. So much is changing. Kate, you gave me so many questions from, everything you're talking about there. The first thing I would love to ask you about is you mentioned that you feel like ChatGPT, OpenAI, they botched the plugins launch. Tell me how you think they should have done it to make that actually more successful.
Oh, God. Where do I start? So, for starters, OpenAI is a $1 billion+ company that's run like a startup with with like no funding. They roll out updates live, do not let the developers know. They break things all the time as they're like, they fix one thing and then break two other things and roll out
They give us
update.
browsing, they take it away, they give it back.
Yeah, without communication. And so they have a developer forum, and at some point, I think there was like one person in charge, and at the launch time, they had one person in charge of all the forum support and all of the plugin application reviews. One person. Like, the backlog was phenomenal. And then they implemented it so that if even one character changed in your manifest file of your API, your plugin would be automatically yanked out of the store because the hash didn't match. And then you had to go reapply, and that could take a week, 2 weeks to get back in the store. Meanwhile, all your early customers are like, where are you? What happened? Or at some point, we had 1,400 support emails come in and be like, what just happened? And we didn't even know that if we modified or made an improvement to the manifest file, that we were going to be kicked out. Like, that was not announced. Then you start investing in it, and then they announced like, hey, we're not ready for monetization. No monetization. You can't make money with the plugins. But then you think about like, okay, well, what about Kayak and so forth and Expedia, who are finding hotels and linking to their site? They're making money with it.
Monetizing.
So like, what really is your monetization policy? Crickets. Like, we did so, but if you're not confident you'll be able to monetize the thing you put out there, you're not going to put as many resources in it either, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to pay the bill somehow, like web scraping and like all the APIs powering what you want to do. It costs money. So if you wanted a really, really high quality plugin store, you'd have some support for monetization in mind, or at least some kind of a roadmap so developers know what we're building for, right? Because we have to feed the children. I mean, the list goes on. Authentication was another one of those big messes. They had Auth0 login support, but it wasn't really well documented. So we spent like 2 weeks just hacking it together. We worked with an open source authentication company called Log2. They're amazing. And we kind of figured it out by reverse engineering how authentication worked, but so much was missing. Like, we felt like we coded like 50% of the authentication code that should have been provided by OpenAI's part, and just to make it work. And I think at some point we were the only plugin in the world who had like authentication figured out. But then it just continued. Then one day they just changed their specification or how they handle authentication. No announcement, just plugin breaks again, and we're just left out holding the potato bags. Then he posted a forum, but nobody else has even attempted to figure out authentication. So like, nobody can sympathize and says, yeah, me too. And so forth and so on. Like,
oh my gosh.
But then what happened is, in May, Bing comes out and says, we're going to support GPT plugins in Bing search. And then they announced like a whole list of companies that we're going to launch with. And then after that watched launch of plugins, crickets, like to this day. That announcement, go look it up on their site. All these companies that supposedly work.
Yeah, I literally didn't know about that announcement. So
yeah, like they haven't like updated anyone about it, because they're probably like rethinking like, how do we go to market without a repeat of what OpenAI has done. And then one last thing, Google had its Google I/O conference for developers around that time too, and then they call them skills. Like, very careful not to call them plugins, because it's not plugins, it's Google. Then they also announced skills. Like, to this day, crickets on that topic. Although we do have an indication in the last 2 weeks that Google is moving that direction when they added a thing called extensions to Google Bard. And extensions are Gmail and YouTube. But extensions, and they have a Chrome extension store. And since then, they also announced that Bard will be part of the Android Assistant, like the Google Assistant. Bard for and for AI assistant.
Yeah.
So they have extensions for that, and the AI assistant takes the more and more role of the browser, kind of the ecosystem of web marketing. Then it tends to follow that just like they have a Chrome store, they'll have a Bard extension store.
Okay. Yeah. So a ton of things they botch. And from the user side, this is my biggest pet peeve with that whole thing. And I would love to hear your thoughts on it. But the thing that kind of bothers me with it is when I go, like, first off, you got to go download all your plugins. It's like, okay, whatever. It'd be cool if they all work. The thing that I hate is that I have to go and like check the plugin I want to use and then go use it. I would love it if I just go to ChatGPT. I have 10 plugins downloaded. I ask you for like a trip. You're just going to go get, like, give me the information on the trip. Or like I have your SEO plugin. I just say like, hey, give me the SEO keywords for X, Y, and Z topic. I don't want to have to go and remember to go check mark my thing. I just
absolutely.
Right?
But when technologies like that come out, you see the limitations and you understand why they made the compromise, and you accept that because in your mind's eye you see it's inevitable where this is going to go next. And so immediately in my mind I saw this is a search engine where every website offers their own plugin, and the search engine determines which plugin can best answer or solve that problem or that skill. And so instead of like one website that owns the entire ecosystem, instead we talk about the universe of intelligence where every SaaS company becomes singularly good at one thing, builds authority, trust, and experience up for that one thing. And it's the search engine's job to index that universe of intelligence so that you don't have to go and say, oh, and use that plugin to solve it. In other words, if I would go to Google, I should be able to say, I have so-and-so problem. Then Google should say, well, it looks like you want to do so-and-so. So let me go and talk to this one for text, this one for images, this one for, I don't know, turning it into a video, this one to go and post it. And within that, you have sites that you call trusted, which is similar to your plugin store checked boxes, things that where maybe you have credentials with them. And then you have the ones that are not trusted yet, but can be exploratory. And so a whole new content economy can come to life. The very content economy that Google depends on for its life, but is currently destroying in wholesale. And it's like some people should be fired, in my opinion, at Google. Because like what you do is you eat the hand that feeds you. That hand will stop feeding you. And so content creators are feeding Google. Therefore, Google can make money with a search engine from ads. But once they start taking up their content and then not giving traffic back, you ate the hand that feeds you ate that hand that feeds you. So consequences that then content creators start blocking Google from indexing their site, and then you get paywalled websites like Twitter puts a login page now, so Google can't get to it, etc. And it's just the start. So how do you recreate that balance? How do you restore that balance? Well, you restore that balance by letting the search engine, right, the AI assistant version of it, you let them surface your brand agent, so it can interact with it on the behalf of the customer. And here's what that can look like for a consumer. You're in 2030. We're all rich, and it's post singularity. We have no concern about money whatsoever. And you're like, is my car ready? Is it charged? So you're asking Siri or Alexa or whatnot. So how can the best AI model in the world, how can it possibly know if your car is charged? It needs to talk to something or someone or something to know it. Well, you have in your trusted partners or whatnot, you know, it knows you have a Tesla. So it goes and talks to Tesla and says, hey, Jayden wants to know if this car is charged. Can you tell me? So the Tesla brand agent answers back to whatever AI assistant you're using and says, yep. And you're like, okay, pull up my car. All right, so it goes back and the AI assistant says, pull up the car. Tesla answers back, can't do it. Garage is closed. Can't drive through the wall. So now the AI assistant needs to do problem solving, right? So Google does problem solving. What does it do? Well, it says, oh, you have a Chamberlain garage door opener. Let me talk to that brand agent. It opens the garage. Then it says, now I can go back to Tesla and ask it to finish the job. It finishes the job. You're still in your sofa. You're not aware of all this back and forth work that went behind the scenes. And it says, your car's ready. Okay, that's perfect. That's the kind of experience that we're all going to get used to in the future, where AI is actually going to be like problem solving for us. And the way it's going to happen, it's not going to be one SaaS with 10,000 features. It's going to be a universe, an entire internet of capabilities, each website being trustworthy and recognized for one specific task, call it like atomic SaaS. And then AI systems that are going to be there both at work and are personalized, that are going to orchestrate that universe of intelligence.
Yeah, something I would love to ask you your perspective on. In order for this future to be a reality, does that essentially mean like every device in your home has to be like an IoT device?
I think it's inevitable that we're going to get there, right? So in order for, let's say you have a front door in your house, right?
Yeah.
And in order for your AI assistant to be helpful and open that door at the right times for whatever you might possibly ever need it, it has to be somewhat connected. And so this is, I believe that Amazon and Google and Microsoft, all these companies understand this extremely well. It's not a coincidence that Amazon releases like 24 devices. The war for market share is on. Amazon's strength is in the IoT space. Google's strength is in mobile devices and Android. Apple equally. Microsoft is with Windows and enterprise customers. And so on Amazon's side as well with AWS. So everyone is using right now what you call like leverage, their maximum leverage. They throw their maximum weight behind this, and it's going to be a very interesting few years. I mean, just like we saw the browser wars. I mean, Netscape Navigator, nobody uses that today. That might be the fate of OpenAI 20 years from now. However, I still remember, when Firefox took over and destroyed Internet Explorer. So it's maybe not the first one who wins, maybe not the second one who wins, maybe not even the third, until the Chromium project got adopted and by Google into Chrome. That's where we are today. But AI systems will go through the same kind of competition cycles.
So I think this is like such a fascinating and also really exciting future to look forward to. Obviously the implications are amazing. There's so much you can do. Something that I think there is quite a few people that are concerned, right? Because you painted the picture at the beginning. You're like, it's 2030. We don't have to worry about money. It's taken care of. And that sounds phenomenal. A lot of people, though, would say perhaps it's dystopian, right? Because if all your devices in your house are IoT devices, what's to stop? We saw in Texas, right? This happened a number of years ago where there's issues with the power grid, and people that had smart thermostats, the electric companies lowered their thermostat temperatures.
Yeah.
Nobody likes that overreach. And what's our defense? What's your thoughts on like the government? Okay, you have IoT devices. The government can essentially listen to and control, or your electric company or anyone. Right. That's what I think is going to stop a lot of people from adopting this technology, which could be very cool. So what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, sure. Tinfoil hat mode, I can have the CIA do everything they want. But even today, you don't need to be an amateur for that.
Yeah.
So look, if you have a device and it has an API, that API can have an authentication mechanism that authorizes who can use it and who can't. If you decide to not trust Google and you want your own homebrew AI assistant that you run on your device or something, and you just use that, just authorize your devices to only talk to that AI assistant. That's your choice. Majority of people are going to opt for convenience, and that's what the large companies are banking on. But there's going to be this group of people who still prefer to run a version of Linux with 50 VPN layers through it. I mean, that's okay. that should exist as well for people who have that concern.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of evolves. From your end, with what you're currently building, what's one of the biggest challenges that you're currently trying to overcome in that process? I know we got to wrap up the podcast, but as we're finishing here, tell us one of the biggest challenges you're currently working on.
Well, the biggest challenges are not technological, in my view. They're actually they have more to do with education and adoption and corporate politics. I think every company in the world currently is scrambling to use AI and how to use AI. And with that, there's a lot of power play as well. It's like who gets to run those departments and who gets to own the technology stack. The big companies are all involved. Every agency is pitching every company 50 million ideas. So I think people feel overwhelmed. They feel intimidated. Many business leaders I've talked to have a let's wait and see what happens stance, or let's stick with the things we already have, the partners we have, and wait for their AI offerings and just organically grow within that. I think there's a huge need for education of the workforce. I have had so many keynote talks where talk about the future, and then inevitably, like somebody raises their hand and asks, like, how do I make a prompt in GPT? Like something like you're like, what? You're like, it's like a year ago. You're not up to date. Yeah. The fact is, people aren't just a light switch you turn on. This is a transition period that's going to have to happen. And there's going to be a lot of thinking, mental shifts in our minds. What used to take like an entire generation for people to get used to will happen in a few years' time. So it will be very demanding and stressful on people. I think that even in the workplace, and we have to be very cognizant of that in our companies.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so accurate. Alexander, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I'll leave a link in the show notes where you can find out more about what they're currently building. And again, thank you so much for coming on the show. To the listener, thanks for tuning in to the AI Chat podcast. Make sure to rate us wherever you get your podcasts and have a fantastic rest of your day.